Semper Fi, and happy birthday to all of my Marine Corps brothers and sisters out there. Today, November 10th, 2022 is the Marines' 247th birthday, and on today's special anniversary episode, I'm going to be reading through Fightin Marines issue number 78. This is originally published by Charlton Comics, and this is actually published from 1968. Out of the thousands of comics, maybe even tens of thousands of comics that I have, this may be one of the oldest ones in my collection at 1968, and so it is a great little blast from the past and a pretty great time capsule, if you ask me. There are some great ads in here and some great depictions of what America looked like at the time and what our military looked like at the time and how comic books portrayed specifically Marines. Now, if you guys know me, you know that I served from 2016 to 2021 in the Marine Corps as an artillery officer. I served with the fantastic men and women of 17 and 311. Hail to both of you guys, and hail to Two Guidons and hail to Thunder. Those units were fantastic, and I actually got to deploy with 17 as a infantry platoon commander for weapons platoon. And one of the reasons why this Fightin Marines issue is special to me specifically is because one of the stories in here actually follows a lieutenant. And me being a lieutenant on my first deployment really kind of is a great look at that. So I really enjoyed this issue a lot. The artwork is fantastic. It's very of its time, but there's great detail, great inking. The coloring is kind of not deteriorated, but it's not as bright as you would expect. A more modern comic would be. But I think that's actually kind of why I like the issue. It's kind of browned and dirty, and it's definitely been read, and I like that aspect of it. It has a smell to it. Like when we take a look at this book, you guys will be able to smell this issue for sure. The issue definitely has a significance, not only just because I'm a Marine, not only because I served as an officer, but also because the first story in here talks about Tarawa, and Tarawa was actually one of my grandfather's first battles that he ever served in. My grandpa was a colonel in the Marine Corps when he retired, when he got out, and so the Marine Corps thing kind of just runs in the family. So to see the depiction of Tarawa here in this comic is kind of beautiful, and like I said, very special to me personally. So enough talk, let's go ahead and take a look at this bad boy. So here is Fightin Marines issue number 78, and like I said, my grandfather, who served in World War II, his first battle was on Tarawa, and he actually wrote this short book, this short story, about his experience. Here's his photograph here. And at the time when he served, he was actually Private Gilbert Ferguson. So this is his little recollection of the event. Pretty horrifying stuff. A harrowing tale, not for the likes of everyone. But that's why this issue is so important and why it's so special to me. Like I said, because it kind of captures a little bit of what happened that day on Tarawa. So also, before we go into the story, I wanted to kind of show you guys some of these ads. They're so funny to look at this point in time. I also like, as you guys can tell, kind of the browning around the pages. The old age of this book really is shown, and I'm just going to flip through some of these before we get into the story so you guys can get a look at some of the artwork and the dialogue and the depictions, and like I said, some of the ads in here. 1,000 tricks to be a magician. So great. I think there's an X-ray vision thing here at the back. So this book is actually an anthology series, so each one of these is a different story talking about different characters. So yeah, here's the X-ray vision one. This is pretty funny too. Is your hair growing or going? Even, back in 1968, people were having issues with hair loss. And how is it then 2020 we're still dealing with it? You'd think that we'd find a way. But another great ad in the back here for some cars. So like I said, as an anthology issue, it kind of has a couple different stories in here, but my favorite, and actually the one that we're going to read today, is Major Haydock's Last War. So this first page says he was a living legend at Tarawa, the sole survivor of an assault wave of Marines, driving through a rain of lead to get to the enemy on the beach. Tarawa was Lieutenant Haydock's first battle, but it wasn't going to be his last. So we see him charging into battle as a lieutenant. He's got the butter bar on the helmet. I'm all too familiar with that. And he takes out the plane, he starts taking out enemies on the other side, but he gets hit as he's taking some of these guys out. So one of his Marines comes up and he says, "A medic's on the way, Lieutenant. You sit down, we'll take it from here." And Lieutenant says, "Sit down? Listen, Mac, I ain't sitting till I reach the other side of the island." Spoken like a true Marine, am I right? So the enemy spots him, they zero in on him, and he has to tuck away after being hit so many times. And one of his Marines goes, "I'll bet he got more holes in him than the socks I threw away yesterday." He's hit in 6 places. And when I say yesterday, it's not just me saying that. The text actually says Y-E-S-T-I-D-D-Y, yesterday. So you can already tell that the dialogue is pretty funny here. You got some distinct accents. I love this panel up here. Him just charging through, making a way for his Marines, making a path for his Marines at the front lines, you know? As an officer should be leading from the front. So he takes all those hits and he goes, move up, we got to take the high ground." And so finally, after the firefight, the medic comes by and the lieutenant passes out. And he says, "I let him down, Captain. Conked out on him, didn't I?" And he says, "You took the beach, Ray. The rest of us made it because of you." So I thought that was a cool scene here. And then we see Lieutenant getting better. He's healing from his wounds. But in literally 2 panels, he's back after it. And he's back at Iwo Jima. So it's 1944 at this point in time, I believe. And he says, come on. If you slow down, you die." Once again, spoken like a true Marine. He charges through Iwo Jima. The Marines recall and they say at Tarawa he did the same thing. So we see that he has this way about him of leading from the front. So then he finally gets hit again. And one of the medics has him lying down and he says, he ain't got enough blood left to fill a fountain pen. We got to get a transfusion into the captain before we move him." So after being a lieutenant in Tarawa, captain at Iwo Jima, he's now come home and is also healing from his wounds at this point. And he meets his wife. And this is kind of a nice, touching point in the book where we see his family side. And he's back at home with his wife. And he's now has a son. And his son is starting to grow up. And at this point in time, it is 1967. And so the son is wondering if he's going to be drafted or if he's going to enlist in the Marine Corps. And so the son ends up saying that he is going to enlist. He's going to go to boot camp. And the father says, "Do your best, son. We'll pray for you." And I love this sentiment of just the family dynamic, you know. It's kind of lost in today's modern culture of just this simple, very heartfelt, very loving family dynamic of the mother and father being proud of their child and praying for them that they hope that they do the best, you know, and that's depicted here in this book, which I thought was fantastic. So after the son leaves for battle, the father now, who was Captain Haydock, then says reactivated as Major Haydock, and he arrives in Vietnam February 1967. Once he arrives, he finds his son in the heat of battle and actually takes a helicopter to where his son is in the firefight. So he finds Dave, his son, and the Marines around them say, "The Marines present swear these two are the greatest team in the history of the Corps. Major Haydock's leg isn't crippled, and his vision is as keen as it ever was." And so then they come together at the end of the story, and you have Major Haydock and Corporal Haydock together fighting in Vietnam and fighting for America, fighting for our freedom. And it's a great little depiction of this family dynamic, like I said, and a great depiction of an officer and his role in the Marine Corps, how he should be leading from the front and how he should be going into battle, serving his Marines and always doing what's right for them. And so this was a great depiction of that, and I really enjoyed that aspect of the story. And like I said, you can't knock this art. I mean, some of this artwork that I'm seeing here is better than some of the modern artwork that I see now in 2020. I do enjoy the depiction of all the men within the issue. They have these strong kind of jawlines, these low brows. It is very a masculine feature to kind of have those, and all of the men in this book are very much portrayed as that. But the illustrator must have had some sort of reference, because I mean these weapons look identical to what they were using for the time period. Same with the uniforms. I think the uniforms look great. But yeah, I liked it because it's not too over dramatized either. It's not this kind of military porn where it's just gratuitous violence. It tells a story, and it's actually more based off of the character of Major Haydock, who at the beginning is Lieutenant Haydock. So we see him through like all different phases of his life, and that's why I really like the issue. Like I said, there are a couple other stories within this issue, but my favorite by far is Lieutenant Haydock's story. So there you have it. That's Fightin Marines issue number 78 by Charlton Comics. So I greatly appreciate you guys watching, and to all my Marine Corps brothers and sisters out there, hail to you guys, Semper Fi, happy birthday. 247 years looks pretty good on y'all. I know that's the classic joke, but yeah, thank you guys again for watching this special anniversary Marine Corps birthday YouTube video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of the day.